So credibility is completely overrated. At least this seems to be the statement from The Guardian, which I know is kind of a punching bag, has been for a while. But they did something recently that I think is fun, so I thought we'd go and check them out because they decided to argue that Hello Hello caused Brexit.
What?
Yeah,
The BBC
the
sitcom?
TV show. So Mimi LeBonc over there, she was the real reason that everyone voted Brexit.
Pretty based.
Anyway, we'll start off with the economics of margin call, which is a review on lotus.com of the movie, which great movie. And you go
I've
and
not
check
watched
out
it.
the review on lotus.com because I got to mention
Oh
something.
no, it's got Kevin Spacey in it.
It does, but he's not noncing on kids. So he's actually the
This is advanced warfare.
in the movie. He's actually playing a guy who's like the only moral anchor in the group, where he's like, maybe we shouldn't destroy other people's
Oh,
lives.
bad choice on
Profit.
the casting there.
Yeah, but there we are.
I mean, he's a good actor. I'll give him that. He was a good actor.
Michael Jackson. Boy, those songs. Gary Glitter.
Unironically. Also, Michael Jackson, I will say that there is a lot of contention with those claims. Watch Razor
I
Fist's
know, it's just
videos
a
on
joke.
it.
I'm not. I would love to find someone just completely ignorant of like anything to do with Michael Jackson, Gary Glitter, Jimmy Savile, and Kevin Spacey, and they just sit them down and just they're writing the best things why they love these actors and what.
Well, you just sit them down, show them all the film, show them all the music, without telling them any of that extra context.
They just go out telling everyone that they're their favorite musicians
Oh my
and
God,
actors. Just at work, everyone's
This
like,
guy,
"Man, you need
Gary
to-"
Glitter, he's got such amazing songs.
But all of a sudden, everyone at work is just like, "We need to report him to HR." This some kind
Oh no, because what Jimmy Savile was mainly known for before it all came out, he's like, Jimmy Savile, he was always so good to those kids, wasn't he?
Ugh.
Oh,
Anyway,
don't clip that.
back to the fun instead, which is the real cause of Brexit. It turns out was indeed Mimi LeBonc, or whoever the hell else you want to pick from Hello Hello's cast. This is The Guardian. This is real. Most people thought this was a parody, but no, it's real. British sitcoms reveal culture that contributed to the Brexit vote.
Oh my God, in the 1970s and 80s, they had sitcoms where English people were English.
So you know the thing
That means that everybody voted for Brexit. I mean, they do want to destroy this kind of culture because it means you look back and you go, hold up, England wasn't diverse and everybody seems much happier. They want to get rid of it.
I mean, the thing is, like, you know how leftists will reinvent the wheel every so often? They'll be like, what if my sexuality is that I like having sex with the opposite sex, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's called straight.
They reverse engineer it.
All the time. Well, this one, I think what they've done is they reverse engineered finding out that cultures are different.
Sorry, you've just got me thinking, what's the name of the sexuality they invented for enjoys being in straight monogamous relationships?
Cake gender or something. It's like you have a warm feeling for someone and you only have sex with that person that you love.
Probably cake gender.
Yeah. Anyway, but a lot of other people were like, the real cause of Brexit. Come fly with me. I mean, fair enough.
I can't believe they took that off Netflix. That was such a good show.
People who haven't seen Come Fly With Me,
It's hilarious. You should track it down.
you should also go watch Little Britain because that was gold before.
I do
decided
like
to kill
Little
it.
Britain, but I think even though it was only one series, Come Fly With Me, I preferred.
Particularly these characters here. So this is Taj,
Oh,
who's
yeah.
the bag boy, and then there's I forget his name, the character, but let's call him Mr. Smith, who is just the racist Brexiteer immigration officer, who is the funniest man alive.
Oh, yeah.
So do go check that out.
Doesn't he question that guy for his passport? He had a mustache before.
Well, which one?
Or is it he's like, oh, you've got a mustache now, and he gets him to shave it
He
off.
shaved it off, so he gets a pen out and like draws it on the French immigrant, and then it's like, still does not fit.
That's so good.
Deported. Yeah. Anyway, but there's some other people who are like, the real culprit. There we are.
Should have known.
He had a feeling about it. But this is the article. Sitcoms reveal culture that contributed to the Brexit, says historian. Oh, great. More experts. I'm just going to leave it here so people can have a lovely look at Hello Hello. People who haven't watched Hello Hello, you can pirate it on YouTube because for some reason it's just up. So there we are. Special
Are we
followers.
allowed to endorse that?
I'm not saying you should do it. I'm saying you shouldn't, but I'm saying it's
Oh,
there.
you're saying it's possible to do so.
It is horrible that YouTube allows such things to be easily available if you just type in Hello Hello episode 1 through 20. And
I bet you've just got it taken down off YouTube for that. Also, this man, to be fair, does look like average Brexit voter.
So
And God bless him for it.
have you watched Hello Hello or not?
I actually haven't.
So I'll explain it.
I've watched, Young Ones, Blackadder, a lot of the classic 80s
Dad's
ones.
Army.
Yeah, well, of course.
Forty
Dad's Army
Towers,
was
yeah.
kids, what I was watching as a kid.
So I imagine the Americans probably haven't watched many of these or any of them. Check out all of them, frankly. But Hello Hello is probably the funniest one in terms of stereotypes. So the whole concept is that it was all the British people, and they needed to make a show about a French cafe owner who is the man on the left here,
Isn't it
René.
in occupied Paris?
Yes, and René's cafe is what he runs. It's actually an Easter egg. If you play Hoi 4, when you load up the front screen, you'll notice there's Rene's Cafe there. Anyway, little Hoi 4 facts.
For all of the hoi foi boys out there.
There are a lot of Hoi 4 boys out there, I'll tell you. Anyway, and there's his wife, Yvette, who he does not like because he's French. So he cheats on her with all the waitresses constantly. And
I mean,
also
average Frenchman.
the French leader of the resistance. She's also a woman that he cheats on his wife with, because of course. And then
Well,
any
he's
other woman-
attracted to strong women, obviously.
It's not even that. It's just not my wife. Aha.
Not my wife, unzip.
Yeah, whatever he's talking about his wife. Is
Truly,
Costanda.
I mean, to be fair, this man does look someone like Jean-Paul Sartre with his eyes.
Yeah,
And he
it's-
was also disturbingly successful with women despite that.
But the point being, so you got a bunch of French people,
French
right? And then there's the Germans, and the Germans turn up, and they talk in German accents, of course, and they're wearing silly things and talking silly and cannot understand humor and all the rest of it. And they're the occupying force, so they're there, and he has to negotiate with them to get stuff, materials, or not go to jail. But at the same time, there's the communist French resistance, and we're all pretty women in berets, who tried to kill him because he works with the Germans, so then he has to keep them off, but
Resist
working with
the
them.
socialist boobs.
but because he works with the socialist boobs and the Germans want to lock him up for it, and then there are the British airmen who turn up and say hello chaps and blah blah blah, and they are hiding in his attic and he's got to deal with them because the leader of the resistance wants him to. But of course it's a British show, so there's no French, because why would we speak French? Disgusting. So instead,
this is just a round improvement.
no, but there's no subtitles. Everyone just speaks with a massive, ridiculous accent. So
They don't even go the laziest route
They-
and just speak in English accents.
No,
No.
so the British airmen speak perfect English, chaps, and I can't understand what this frog is saying. I think he wants your watch. I'll give him the watch. They give the watch to Rennie, and Rennie goes, "Why is he giving me his watch? I do not want his watch. I want him to get under the bunk, because I cannot hide him." Or whatever. And then there's a British spy who turns up, who is spying as a French policeman, who was the previous chap. I think we can get him back up real quick so people can see him.
Yes, yes.
And of course, he has learnt to speak French perfectly well, chaps. I'll speak the French for you. And then, of course, he speaks in a French accent and going, "Hello, I have come from under the. I have come to have a looking at what is going on in your bunk." And they're like, "What the hell is he saying?" And the joke is that you can speak bad French, and the Germans, of course, just speak English but with a German accent. And the point being that you're showing off, because a lot of soldiers were actually shown the show and loved it when it came out, because it was at a time when people were alive who, of course, fought there and were operating there. And they loved it because, of course, it was the different cultural aspects and the humor ensued from those cultural aspects. And the left, in the form of The Guardian here, have rediscovered the show and then been like, "Oh, look, the cultures are different. This was clearly Brexit propaganda. Aren't we all the same? Aren't we all humans?" It's comical. Bad.
Wait, is this trans-Europeanism or something?
Yeah.
Is this what they're doing? All Europeans equal the same?
It's worse than that, actually. We'll get to the end. I'm pretty sure he's a German sympathizer. So, people seeking to explain Brexit have looked to Winston Churchill and the 16th century English Reformation, but they may just as well have looked at Captain Mannering and Basil Fawlty, according to an expert.
Well, I mean, John Cleese did say that London isn't an English city anymore, so Basil Fawlty is probably the least tenuous connection we've got here.
He was also able to point out that there are cultural differences, such as the Germans don't have any humour and the French cheat on their wives. That argues the historian, Professor Gavin Schaefer. Right. Now, I looked him up. We'll get back to him in a bit.
All right,
But
okay.
part of me is wondering whether he's a German spy. So
All right, okay.
he says it is because the tone of British sitcoms from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, such as Fawlty Towers, Dad's Army, and Hello Hello, give an insight into parts of the sense of identity and political culture that contributed to the vote to leave the European Union.
What did they're English?
Well, they all have views of the Europeans, such as that they are not English. They are European and are from their distinct cultures and therefore are a bit different.
Okay.
Chaps.
You mean just like the French
Like reality.
look differently on the Germans, and the German look differently on the French, and the Italians look differently and the Spanish are
What-
different?
no, like reality when you go to Spain and you organise a meeting
this
and they
not-
don't turn up. And
Is it just me, or is this not that bit of diversity that they always go be banging on about?
well, Schaefer over here has come to England to tell us that many Britons took Hello Hello to their hearts as it presented a light-hearted reflection of the European differences that ultimately spoke to the core differences between Britain and the European neighbours. Something that, anyone could have told
I
you.
mean, that's just the reality.
Oh, the French are different. Oh, I mean, I hate to go on it, but your last speaker in your segment, I found that there are two people when it comes to people who travel, right?
Mm.
There are people who come home and come home with the delusion that the whole world is just people trying to get along.
And I can't imagine how they would get to that because surely the more you travel, the more you realize that people are in fact different.
Yeah,
So
it's like they went to, I don't know, Moscow and just stayed in the English Quarter or something.
it's a very strange level of cope that one must imbibe.
It's the kind of people who learn nothing ever. And
Yeah.
then there are the people who come home, and the joke is that they're the most racist people alive. Of course, it's not about racial differences. It's just, no, we can point out the differences between the ethnic groups. They know the quirks of each of them, and so forth. And
Acknowledging that people are different does not immediately mean that you have to go, well, best kill them all.
funnily enough, it doesn't. But Schaefer over here has got a different view. He says the show also tells us something about British attitudes to Europe were changing and not changing in the late 80s and the early 90s, as Britain edged closer to her European neighbours. Despite closer bonds, British voices of Euroscepticism never strayed too far from suspicions rooted in the Second World War. Schaefer, do you think there might have been a reason post World War we were a bit sus of the Germans? You want to have a think about maybe what it might have been? You know, a Holocaust or two? World War or two? the,
I mean, the Russians are also, well, part of the Russians are also European. Some of them are Asian, but a
Yeah.
lot of them are European. They also did some bad things.
sus of them too, for some reason. You know, quite a few genocides of their own, which are even worse than the Holocaust, which, in terms
Is
of
this
numbers.
guy going to go, and why do they all keep looking sideways at the Baltics?
it's literally him sitting there like, I don't know why people don't trust the Europeans. We are perfectly to be trusted. No, I mean, they are perfectly to be trusted, I swear. Churchill's line that the EU was, the UK was with Europe, but not of it, that it was linked but not comprised, and interested and associated but not absorbed, is often cited as one of the most succinct explanations of the way Britons have felt about the relationship with Europe since the end of the Second World War. And some have argued that the British distance dates back to the Reformation, when King Henry VIII broke with Rome. Personally, when I meet people who are, old enough to remember their dad fighting, and they ask
Old
them,
enough to remember the Reformation. I remember old Henry, I do.
when asked why they left Rome, they usually ask you something along the lines of, "Well, I just want to kill some Europeans." What else? I'm not even joking. I was a lovely lady I met once. I asked her, "Well, why? Do you remember?" She was like, "Oh, yes, my dad went and fought in the navy. Why did he go?" And she said, "Well, I asked him that one day, and he said he wanted to kill some Germans." So there we are. Yet Schaefer has argued that the sort of popular entertainment enjoyed by millions across the country is at least as instructive of pro-Brexit attitudes. The argument that there was something specifically British about being able to laugh at yourself was a key to much of the public affectation for hello.
Affection.
Affection, sorry. I love that though. She's like, the British have this sense of humor, but doesn't everyone? Gott in Himmel! I mean, have you asked the Germans?
Germans at the side going, humor, laughter?
Yeah, I love joke. I tell you a classic German joke. Knock, knock.
Who's that?
It is a German man. He is selling a box of cereal. I will now tell another German joke. Anyway, continuing affection for this kind of humor points to something of the British spot about the legacy of the war and the barriers between Britain and the rest of Europe. Yeah, they all went fascist and we didn't.
This is an impressively stupid article.
I mean, I'm sorry, but it really is just him going around being like, I don't know what they don't like us. I mean them. Why don't they like them?
I'm sorry, this is... What, so the Brits can laugh at themselves.
Yeah.
Therefore, Brexit?
And they also don't like the Germans for some reason. They can't find out why, because they don't like us Huns. Listening very carefully to Alolo reveals a story of a nation that remains unready for further European integration. Well, it is because they're all Nazis in the show, so it's pretty standard for being sus of the Germans, and also sus of the French because they're all communists in
Is it terrible that I want England to stay England, and Germany to stay Germany, and France to stay France, and all of these countries to have their own uniqueness to them? Is that bad?
It's not even that. Local professor is unsure as to why the British public don't trust Napoleon or Hitler. I mean, I'm not...
That's fair.
You have to know no history to argue like this. Schaefer said Britain's uneasy relationship with Europe has often been presented in such works, even if unsaid. In Faulty Towers, he wrote, it was deliberately set up as the elephant in the room. For example, in one episode, which the broadcaster shortly after a yes vote in 1975 European referendum, Basil Fawlty tells his German guests, I didn't vote for it myself, quite honestly, but now that we're in it, I'm determined to make it work.
Did Shay forget that in Fawlty Towers, Basil Fawlty is often, if not every single time, the butt of the joke?
Yeah, he's being rude there, and that is the comedy,
Yes.
which is that he's got some Germans and instantly is just like, well, you are scum, but whatever, well, you're here now.
Yeah.
No, Mr. Schaefer over here, I believe, and tell me wrong, I believe he's a German spy, which is why he doesn't understand any of the jokes.
All right, okay, let's hear your evidence. I'm sure that you've got an incredibly thorough case.
Well,
me.
the last line is the thing I think sells it for me. And he said Dad's army portrayed the war as a period of national cooperation, with the characters becoming an exemplar of British character triumphing over European foes. And he's upset about that. How dare they show that the British would have some reason to distrust the Germans? God strafe England, said Mr. Schaefer, I assume. Because why else would you write that? Why do you think the British would be triumphing over the Europeans? Because it's the Nazis, mate. It was the British show were beating them. It's not the alternate universe where your ancestors did nothing wrong, I presume, Mr. Schaefer.
The thing is, if the Germans had won the war, there would have been
shows about how the Germans were the good guys.
Yeah, comedy shows. Well, maybe there would have been shows about.
Would have been documentaries.
There would have been very serious and straightforward documentaries about how the Germans were the good guys in every situation.
Oh,
That's how
God.
post-war propaganda works.
And it's just really, really weird. I don't know why they published this piece of crap. Like, hello.
Right,
Basically, right-wing propaganda.
Who is Kevin Rawlinson who wrote this? And is it just that he met some random German at a pub?
Well, he met Professor Gavin Schaefer over
Gavin
here.
Schaefer.
Who was like,
And
oh,
listen
that's his
to-
real name.
Listen to him ramble for a
Squirrel.
bit.
Yeah,
and
I
went,
could say the word squirrel.
Oh my God, I'm on a deadline. I need a new article.
Hello,
there's-
raving German nationalist. Would you tell us about why Brexit happened? Yeah, it's because they make propaganda about how bad my ancestors were in the war, which I'm sorry for their conduct or not. Anyway, but checked out Schaefer. Apparently, he's a real bloke. As you can see here, he's
Apparently.
yeah, for some reason. He is also a pronoun.
Rawlinson was able to get a LinkedIn profile knocked up real quick for this.
He also does seem to be a pronoun user, so gross.
Oh no, he's a pronoun respector.
Yeah, but we'll end this off with the fact that, to be honest, I mean, seeing the funny walk does remind me of why I don't want to be in the Euros. Don't get me wrong, but there's that. And I did have one more article from The Guardian, which is, I think, worse, but it's quite sad. So I'll save that for another day because I've had some fun. I don't want to ruin the fun today. I think we'll go to the video comments with a smile instead. Because that one is The Guardian arguing that women should be able to kill babies.
Oh yes, I saw that one.
Yeah, I will leave that for another day.
Should we get just a tiny little hint?
Should we have a sampling here? Just the headline. Women who want to kill their newborns are deeply unwell, so why are they being tried for murder? It's because they kill babies.
This is
Julia.
This is a riddle worthy of a Greek myth.
So there we are. Credibility. Overrated. Because why not just argue that God strafe England and also kill your baby and you should get off because you're a woman and therefore mentally ill? That's actually their argument. We'll get back into that.
Oh, well, just that all women are mentally ill.
Who have babies, yes. That is the Guardian's position, not mine. YouTube.
They
But
took a half measure. They should have taken a full measure.
that's enough of that. I'm going to end on a smile instead of a what is wrong with you?
Yes, let's.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the behind the scenes and building the new studio. If you'd like to see what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.